So we're at the University of Melbourne. This is a picture of on campus. We were founded in 1853, so we're one of the original universities of Australia. We're called the Sandstone Universities because our buildings are made out of sandstone. It's a very lovely campus right in the middle of Melbourne. It's a 20-minute walk to the central train station and the shopping area in Melbourne. A very, very large campus. And now we're actually also expanding beyond the original boundaries. There are 31 universities in Australia. Most of them are public, all but 2, I believe, which means we're largely funded by the government, but not completely. And the leaders are called the Group of 8, and we're part of that. You can see that we're old because our motto is in Latin, and I don't think they even teach Latin anymore in the high schools. Now, I'm in the Department of Computer Science and Software Engineering. We're in the School of Engineering, which is faculty, until recently, a Faculty of Engineering. For all intents and purposes, it is a Faculty of Engineering, and we have 5 departments in there. We have electrical engineering, civil engineering, mechanical engineering, chemical engineering, and computer science and software engineering. Okay, so we're a very technical school. Angela mentioned women. We don't have very many.
Same.
We're a general university. We have 40,000 students at any given time, many of whom are postgraduates, so about 15,000 postgraduates. And we have what a big university is expected to have. We have an arts faculty. We also have a faculty of music and performing arts that's quite separate. Science, you'd expect veterinary science, medicine, architecture, business, and the schools, which, as I said, are basically like faculties: education, engineering, law, land, and environment. So we encompass most of what there is to teach and research. Now, as I said, I'm in the Department of Computer Science and Software Engineering. We're housed in the Information and Communications Technology building, ICT, Information and Communications Technology. This is our building. We've now moved off campus. When I started at the university, we were in one of the old sandstone buildings with no elevators, not very many laboratories, not very nice teaching spaces at all. Well, many of you are teachers, so you'll know that if you teach in an old-fashioned room with a very high ceiling, you have to really project your voice, and it's very tiring to teach. We had lecture theaters. I don't even want to think about them. Well, we're now in a very nice new building. We moved here in 2003. This is our 3rd move since I've been at the university. We had a purpose-built building in 1994, also off campus. We share this building with the Department of Information Systems, who are in the Faculty of Science. So we're in the Faculty of Engineering. We have the northern half of the building, and the Department of Information Systems has the southern half. We've decided on a vertical split rather than a horizontal split, rather than having different floors, and my office is about here with nice big windows, floor to ceiling windows. We have beautiful lecture theaters. As I said last week, we're a campus-based university. We believe in the old-fashioned lectures, but we also do have many, many modern laboratories, computer laboratories for us. And we are very hooked up. As I think I said last week when Roberta was talking about technology, we believe in technology enhancing teaching, but we believe in face-to-face teaching. So here's our face-to-face teaching. Yes, when I put this picture up, I was reminded of what Roberto said, that being in a lecture is distance education. This is much better than our old crowded theaters. It's very roomy and comfortable, but it's a very long way to the lecture. And so I'm always walking up these stairs. You know, I have a presenter, you know, one of those things that you click to change your slides so that I can move around. But anyway, this is where we're sited. So we're Sandstone University, but we're modern. Now, we're undergoing a great deal of change right now. Up until 2007, 3 years ago, a little bit more than 3 years ago, we had 97 different bachelor's degrees. We had 3-year degrees, arts and science, generalist degrees. We had 4-year bachelor's degrees, engineering. We had 5-year bachelor's degrees, law, architecture, mechatronics, which is mechanical engineering and computer science based. We had a 6-year degree, medicine, all bachelor's degrees, and we also had combined bachelor's degrees. So for example, someone might take an arts degree and a science degree. Now that would normally be 6 years. They could do it with a special program in 5 years. So for example, if you were interested in linguistics and psychology, the psychology of language, you could take an arts degree in linguistics and combine it with a science degree in psychology. Or you could combine a law degree, a Bachelor of Law, with a Bachelor of Computer Science and be very well placed to look at patent law in software. Some of these degrees were more specialized. We had a Bachelor of Computer Science until recently. Okay. Now, in 2008, we had a big change and we introduced something called the Melbourne model, which we now only have 6 bachelor's degrees. Okay, so we have an arts degree, a science degree, we have engineering. The undergraduate is now a major in the science degree. So we're much more simplified. We have no more combined bachelor's degrees. Our law and medicine degrees have gone into postgraduate, so this is more the American model there. Architecture and engineering are now undergraduate majors, but for accreditation and to actually work as a professional in the field, you're expected to have a master's. So we're much more along the lines, or so we're told. I'd like to hear from people here. Our Vice Chancellor says we're more in line with the Bologna model now, where it's expected to be 3+2 for someone going into a profession. So we've simplified a lot at the undergraduate level. All this mess of all these degrees at the undergraduate level has now gone to the postgraduate level. And I can tell you about this because I used to be on the curriculum committee when we were designing these. There are a lot more master's degrees, a lot more specialized degrees, but at the postgraduate level. The change is, I believe, very good educationally, because we were getting students 18 years old, committed to going into medicine, committed to going into computer science. They now have more time to look around and decide. Okay, I don't know that many 18-year-olds know that they really are suited for medicine. Okay, so I think educationally it's very good. Financially, it's very good as well, because we get much more money from our professional master's degrees, and I'll go into that a little bit in a minute, but I think it's been very good that way too. So the fees. Now, the Australian education system, the tertiary education system, is very political. Okay, so we have a change of government, we tend to change a lot. Okay, so in 1975, we had a Labor government that decided there would be free higher education for Australian citizens. Absolutely free. Before then, I wasn't in Australia. I believe the system was fees, but for the more able students, there were many, many grants available for both the fees and for living expenses. But from 1975 on, it was free. Now, 15 years later, the government decided, we still had a labor government, but they decided that they would have a certain tax called a HECS tax, Higher Education Contribution Scheme. That would be a deferred payment. It would be a low amount. At the time it was introduced, it was about $2,000 per year, which was nothing like the cost of the education. The cost to educate a student in 1990 was about $8,000. So they paid about 25% of their education costs, and they did not have to repay until they were earning a good salary, and they paid as a percentage of their income. So the tax now has gone up to about $5,000 a year. It's between $4,000 and $6,000. It now depends on what course you're in, more for a laboratory-based course. You do not have to pay anything back until the students do not have to pay back until they're earning more than $40,000 a year. So it's quite a good scheme. It still means that nobody is going to be denied education because they can't afford it. Now, what happened was we had 12 years of a liberal government, and the liberal government put less and less money into education. Liberal, by the way, does not mean what liberal means in the United States. Liberal means right wing. Okay. So they were squeezing education quite a bit, and the actual running, if they were contributing less than 50% of the cost to the university for their teaching, and the vice chancellors got together and said, this is ridiculous, we need to be able to earn through our teaching. And they lobbied the government to allow some students in who were not on the HECS scheme, but who were actually paying the full fee. Okay, and this took a few years, but finally in 2006, they had some full fee local places. That's local students paying not just the HECS, but the full fee, and that goes to the university. Another important thing is at the university now, the University of Melbourne, we have approximately 25% foreign students, and the foreign students are not eligible for the HECS tax. They pay full fee. So foreign students have become, we didn't used to have so many foreign students, they've become a very sought after source of income. It also makes us very vulnerable because we have very many Chinese students. China, I've heard, is opening hundreds and hundreds of universities all the time. Now the richer Chinese students are coming to us to get an education. I think when China has really high quality institutions of its own, they're not going to come to us. So we're very vulnerable that way. So the government taxes subsidize the teaching, but they don't pay for all of it. But because we take government money, we're accountable for these public monies. But we have autonomous regulation. So we're not told what to do by the university. We're self-regulating. And many of the questions, some of the questions on the survey, I sort of had to answer, well, we have a complicated system where it starts at the department, and then there's a department committee, and then it goes to the faculty, and there's a faculty committee, and then it goes to the university, and there's a university committee. So we have other sources of income, a lot of research income that gets taxed, that subsidizes the teaching. University of Melbourne, being old and established, has its own investments and income from those investments. Changes for 2011, ERA scheme called Excellence in Research for Australia. The government is looking at trying to focus the research in Australia more. This is going to be important for research grants. They don't want people just doing one individual off in a corner doing research. They want bigger groups. They want a critical mass. And they are looking at publications and grants and postgraduate students and saying, if you have less than a quantum of this, no, you can't go on with that activity, or you can go on, but you won't be funded at all. So that's what's part of what's in the offing for 2011. I should say that this has been a long time coming. It's at least 4 or 5 years ago that the Liberal government started this track, introduced more regulation of research, and there was a whole big exercise of, you know, what the metrics should be and how it should be carried out. And then we had a change of government 3 years ago, and the Labor government said, no, I'm not going to do that, what the Liberals did, no. We'll do a different model, but it's, you know, it's regulation of the research, and it's actually quite similar. Very interesting is this TEXA, Tertiary Education Quality and Standards Authority. Now, we have always in the past been self-regulating in terms of what we teach. We've decided what to teach as long as the university thinks it's a good idea. We've done that. In terms of professional accreditation, of course, as engineering, there's an engineering society, and our course has to meet their standards as well, but we work directly with them. Okay, so it's the university, and then, you know, the Psychology Association, the Architecture Association. That's been the way it's always been. Now the government wants to get in there and say, well, actually, we should accredit you for teaching, and we will accredit you, reaccredit you every 10 years. So that's something that none of us really know very much about how it's going to work, but there is going to be more government interference.